I want to welcome you to the last session of the conference. This particular session is self-advocacy and pandemic processes. And we have three presenters today from Front Range, as you can see on your screen. There's Grace Brown, Norma Mendez, and Owen Smiley. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I am excited to turn it over to you. Recording is going. I'll keep an eye on the chat, and whoever's not speaking in Front Range. I don't know if you want me to give you questions as you go, or do you want to wait till the end?
I think let's do questions at the end. Does that sound good, Grace and Norma?
Okay, so put your questions in the chat and I can go back and find them. Or you can wait till the end and post them, but just don't forget them. Hopefully we'll have time for plenty of questions. So take it away. I don't know who's starting first, but thank you for being here, Front Range team.
Thanks for having us. So we'll just kind of introduce ourselves. So hi, everybody. I'm Owen Smiley.
I was looking for the unmute, and my name is Norma Mendez. I am a concurrent enrollment coordinator. We're all coordinators, and I think Owen will talk about that in a little bit in the introduction. So my name is Norma Mendez, coordinator at Westminster Campus Front Range Community College, and my service area is Brighton and Commerce City.
Hey guys, good morning. My name is Grace Brown. I am the newest concurrent enrollment coordinator at the Front Range Westminster campus. But very excited to be here. This is my first CE conference, so, exciting stuff, right? And I just want to check before we keep going. You all are seeing the PowerPoint slide, correct? Okay, the fun little green box that shows which screen you're sharing went away from me, and I don't know why, so I was just making sure that the tech is correct. If there are any problems, I'm actually not running it. It's someone else, so blame them. Just kidding. It's me. It's my fault. So hopefully it all goes well.
Right. And I guess to just kind of run out, since Norma shared her service area, Grace, you want to share yours real quick?
Yeah, sure. So I work primarily with Adams 12 School District and then with Mapleton Public Schools as well. So pretty much my backyard, which is awesome.
And the joke is kind of, I work with everybody else. So maybe that's Westminster Public Schools, maybe that's our charter schools or online high schools, or anybody who works through Westminster campus, who is not with our other two coordinators I work with, and a large part of our campus select students, the students who come to our campus for classes. So, and then just by way of disclaimer, we've got three folks presenting, so we're all at home today, so if you hear background noises, little humans, dogs, lions, tigers, bears, oh my, just there's your disclaimer. Let me just kind of dive right in. So, self-advocacy is a big part of our program at FRCC Westminster. I know it's a big part of every concurrent enrollment program. But for us, it kind of guides from our information sessions to our registration process. Just in terms of defining self-advocacy, what we mean students kind of knowing what they need and asking for it in a timely manner. We were trying to find a way to boil that down into something that's easily communicated and as often as we need to communicate it, which is all the time. And so we kind of boil it down to students knowing what they need and asking for it in a timely manner. When 2020 happened and COVID struck, the pandemic, of course, caused everybody to pivot. And so we created a set of resources, some of which existed pre-pandemic, some of which definitely got augmented during the pandemic, and to help us and to help our partners in the process for concurrent enrollment. And so that's what we'd like to share today. We kind of, in order to kind of make it make sense, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little time talking through the structure of our team, as well as what's our process that we guide students through. And that'll kind of give some context for the resources that we'll be focusing on. And, there's a handful of reasons kind of behind what our program looks like and the resources we've created. I mean, obviously, the number one is to develop self-advocacy among students. We want to get students as comfortable as possible with the college experience. So, for example, a lot of what we do is focused on teaching students how to use our portal, eWolf, and getting them comfortable with that. And we also want to do everything we can to try to increase face-to-face time with students so that they become more comfortable with college. And the idea is that ultimately that comfortability translates to increased matriculation, whether Front Range or anywhere for that matter. We want to see students succeed. So we also just want to note from the get-go that there is more than one way to do this. There's that whole Mandalorian, this is the way if you're into Star Wars, but this is not the way. This is a way. There are many ways. And so this is just part of how we do this. So Grace, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So one of the reasons why we're able to do what we do is because of the structure of our team. So I just wanted to give a bit of an overview about the way our team is structured, because we couldn't do what we do as coordinators if it weren't for the other people in the office that support us. So we have the way that and this is just how the Westminster campus is structured as well. So we have our director who manages a lot of our school partnerships and maintains kind of the overall vision for concurrent enrollment on the Westminster campus, and does a lot of the big picture thinking for us. We have our assistant director, Anitra, who really handles everything from the smallest details, like getting COF accounts fixed and things like that, to managing all of us, and then also helping to assist all of our partners wherever that's needed. And then there are the three coordinators, me, Owen, and Norma, who have different schools. We kind of talked about our service area at the beginning. And then really we feel very lucky to have our data specialist and our administrative assistant. So our data specialist, we joke, that's what this is for here. We joke that she's our guy or girl in the chair, right? So the idea that you can't go on a superhero mission without having someone back home that's telling you where to go and how to do it, right? And so Debbie is our current data specialist, and without her, I'm not sure what we could do. She handles all of our data uploads. She manages our concurrent enrollment forms. She helps us figure out if students are registered and all of those kinds of things. So she's really vital to the team. I actually got really excited when Dr. Ross was talking about superheroes this morning in the keynote, because I was like, yes, this is going to tie in so perfectly. So that was very exciting. And we also have our administrative assistant, Diane, who really keeps the office running and also helps manage all of our stuff that we do on campus and makes our office a safe space and welcoming space for students. So that is really how our team functions. And then I'm just going to give a little roadmap for what we're going to be talking about today. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about what even is our process with students. As we mentioned, we know there's more than one way to do concurrent enrollment. So we wanted to just give some specifics on the way that we do things. And then we'll kind of walk through some of those resources and why we feel like those resources make sense for students and how we developed them. And then we'll end by talking about how we connect students after their first semester of concurrent enrollment, either through the rest of their high school career or into graduation and whatever they do post high school graduation. And so with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Norma.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I am nervous. I don't know why. So this is my first time presenting in front of such a large group. So thank you guys for being here in this way, right? Obviously, we do this at our high schools at times. So here we're going to talk a little bit about what we do at Westminster to guide students to their seats and teach them how to self-advocate. So like Owen said, when COVID came around, we had to pivot a little bit. So we created a step-by-step process to help students find their seats in their concurrent enrollment classes for both our high school select students and our campus select students. And so our process is it's a multiple step process for sure. But it allows students to follow the process in an easier manner. The way that we begin the process is with an information session. So please know that our information sessions are both offered because of the service areas in which we're in. All our information sessions are offered in English and in Spanish. So I am the Spanish coordinator, the bilingual coordinator for our campus. So our sessions are both in English and in Spanish. The way that our sessions are ran, we do face-to-face and or remote via this way as well. We tend to have evening sessions, remote and face-to-face sessions as well with parents in the evenings at high schools and at our college campus as well. We have pre-recorded English and Spanish sessions as well. We tend to offer smaller information sessions in classrooms. This happens mostly at the schools where we're offering a certificate, and we feel that it's important for the group, that classroom, to understand the session itself if they did not have a chance of attending one of the sessions prior to being in the classroom, because we feel that it's just important for them to understand what it is to be a concurrent enrollment student. In other schools, the way that we're doing the information session versus throwing out the word information session, we've done a little bit more of a boot camp session, which includes, of course, an information session. We just have given it, that specific partner gave it a boot camp name. And so we wrote with that. We feel that it is of huge importance for our students to understand and to know what it is to be a concurrent enrollment student. I think across the board, I've been doing concurrent enrollment for 3 years. I have heard it numerous of times from chairs, from a chancellor, I believe I heard it. Some of our students are in concurrent enrollment classes, and we as parents don't even know that our kiddos are taking a college class. So we want to make sure this is why our process starts with an information session. The following step would be applying to Front Range Community College. So when it comes to applying to Front Range Community College, we know it's an application session for most students. This is the first time that they're doing it. If they're first gens, their parents have no idea what's going on, right? So again, we're meeting our population of students where they're at, and we're here to offer the resources. We do application sessions when needed and where needed. We have combined sessions for our high school. We have or we combine information sessions. So sorry, I was reading the note. So we do application sessions, and or at times when we have enough time after the information session, where we legit have parents or students sitting in the session, we tell them what, we'll let them know what they need, and we will continue. The information session leads into an actual application session right after the information session. After the student applies and they obtain a student ID number, we do what we call a CE form, which is just our electronic agreement. Very easy to do. We'll get into details a little bit later down the road, but for us, this just really helps pinpoint who's a coordinator who's working, because who's the coordinator who's working with the specific student based on the high school. It just narrows it down. It makes our job on the back end a lot easier. After the student does a CE form, this also helps lift any holds that they need. We move on to a registration process. The registration process is done in several different forms. We do this, the student does it by themselves. We do registration sessions inside the classrooms. We do them by grade. We do them by virtual help as well. After the registration is done, we then, if a student is new to coming to campus, this is where we really focus on the student and teaching them, not that we teach all our students to self-advocate and we teach them what they need, but we focus a lot with the students that are coming to campus. Reason being is that they need the proper information. We want them to self-advocate at a proper time, like Owen said, but we have to give them the proper resources and let them know what those resources are. So what we offer is a new student orientation for Campus Select students, both at Westminster and in Brighton. Our data specialists will help us, and we take the time to pinpoint those students that will be coming to campus, and we make sure that we reach out to them specifically to offer them these information sessions at a campus. And again, the goal is to teach them different things, how to self-advocate, but giving them the proper resources. Here we do how to be successful tips. We teach the students how to navigate eWolf, D2L, and give them tons of other resources so that they're successful in their classes at a campus.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in and add a little bit about kind of our why we wanted to talk through these things and what we think students gain. And obviously, this is a process, right? Getting into college, taking a college course, and then actually being in the course is a long process, and that bureaucracy of having to fill out this application and this form and those kinds of things can feel really overwhelming for students, especially our first gen students. And I think that part of what we've seen in concurrent enrollment and with the process that we have is just that our students, they feel so much more confident after they've gone through it with us and with the supports that we have, that they know that they could do it somewhere else, right? And I think that's a big step for us of why we think why we want to support our students is we want them to be able to self-advocate. I want students to feel comfortable reaching out to us and saying, or reaching out to their instructors and asking for help, reaching out to us and saying, hey, I heard you mention in the information session, there's an online writing center. Where is that? How can I find it? How can I use it? Those kinds of things. We even had one of our counselors was telling us, a student that had done concurrent enrollment, went off to college and then came back and was saying, I'm so glad I did concurrent enrollment. When I got to college, my roommate didn't even know how to buy books or how to look for books on the college website. And I knew how to do all of those things because I'd already done concurrent enrollment and I felt so much more prepared. And so I think for those reasons, we really find that, getting students in touch with us and getting them in touch with the college really builds their self-advocacy and builds their confidence. We really want, I know all of us want to see students be successful. And so sometimes it is just that little thing of figuring out how to connect with a big institution like a community college. So I'm going to hand it over to Owen so he can talk about some of our resources.
Yeah, so the reason we kind of give this context is because we really wanted to kind of spotlight for the remainder of our presentation is what we were able to put together, some of which might be repeatable and helpful for others. And so we had put together, started to put together cool PDFs and things like that early on. But then we went home in March and we faced the challenges that everybody else faced. Thank you, Grace, for this lovely gift. I stole it from her other presentation too. We were trying to figure out how best to serve our students. We were in scenarios not unlike this, where, except where we all tend to participate, you can just get a lot of blank screens from students and you don't know if they're there or not. And in the process, we started creating videos. I would like to say that it was a genius idea, but truthfully, it was born out of desperation. We turned out these videos were helpful, so we went back and we started editing them, we started redoing them. And really, this eventually evolved into a YouTube channel. We used Screencast-O-Matic was the software that we used to record, edit, and stream those videos. And what we're going to do now is just kind of cycle through some of those resources as they apply to the different steps of our process. So Norma, I'll give it to you.
Awesome. And yes, we're like super excited. Well, COVID hit, right? Just like Owen said. And now we're at home and we have no access to students. How do we make this happen? And so here we ended doing a lot of things that we have learned to edit, polish. And so a couple of them, I'm going to list the resources that we have. Again, the information session is a huge resource that we have, that we've noticed that although we're back in schools, some of our partners have decided to keep on using our pre-recorded information sessions because it's easy access. We want parents to be informed, but they're working. They can't make it to those meetings. So our information session, again, pre-recorded in our YouTube channel. We have about 1,300 views. And I don't know if that was included. Well, my Spanish one is playing right now. So information sessions pre-recorded, they're there for the students and the parents. And again, here it's the gist of explaining to the student what truly it is to be a concurrent enrollment student, right? For them to understand that. So we have those pre-recorded. We send out the links as needed. All our partners have those on hand to share them. We also created ABCs, like our Spanish ABCs for college now, in both in Spanish and in English. Again, we talk about resources, but are we giving the students the proper resources? We jump into information sessions and registration sessions and an application, but yet they don't know the lingo. First generations have never heard this information. So we have our ABCs, both in English and in Spanish for our College Now students. Another resource that we have is our application sessions, are recorded sessions as well. So I mentioned that we do information sessions, that we do application sessions live as well, but we learned that we have visual students. When we send them off and they have to do this as homework, we have different students that learn differently, right? So we've gave them a visual. That way they hear a voice of someone, Owen's voice. They hear Owen, they hear a voice, and there's someone's walking them through the process. We tell them to open up the video, to listen to it, to pause it, to take their time to do what they have to. For other learners that are not into the visual learning, we have created a PDF. And so it's a little bit of a cheat sheet. We call that an application cheat sheet. again, giving our students the proper resources so that they can apply to college. And again, those are just some of the resources that I am going to talk about, and then I will give it back over to Owen.
Yeah, so, after we have students apply, for us, we use a concurrent enrollment form. And I know that's kind of an unusual step to have, but for us, the way that I explain it to students is it's the one form that takes care of them all for us at Front Range. So they have to apply, and then they do a CE form. And I tell them ultimately it is a pay agreement. It does two things. It's going to lift their hold so that they can register. It's going to also make sure that the pay agreement is in place so their tuition is being paid for by their high school. We don't actually know about them unless they fill out this form as well, so I tell them that too. It's an electronic form. We've had it for years now. It is savable, so students can start it. They can finish it later if they need to. The software that we use for it, FormStack, allows for when it's submitted, it actually gets sent 3 different places. One goes to our data specialist, who then takes it and adds it to our tracking systems and all of that and lifts the hold so that we know about the student. It also obviously one copy goes to the student, so they have that. And then thirdly, it goes to the high school. The high school selects someone, maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's someone in the registrar's office at the high school, who receives these forms so that they have that for their records. When the student fills out the CE form, if they have any holds, we will find that out. If they have any things that they have to do, at that point, we start to kind of learn what those things are, right? So the two most common, and the two that I'll take a second to talk about, is our placement process and our underage process. So I'll kind of start with our underage process. I mean, I know the steps are probably pretty similar system-wide, but what we do is we actually, our registrar's office during the pandemic generously changed our underage admission waiver to make it electronic, so students can do this on their own. So student turns in a CE form, I get a ding that says, hey, we've got some CE forms. I go in and I look at them and I realize, Susie Smith is 16, so they need an underage waiver. So I just have a little canned email that I keep in my quick parts section of Outlook, and I just send it straight to them. And this is something that is, as is in our notes, it is something that is for campus select students, the students who are coming to us. If students are taking classes in high school, this is not a necessary step. And so this is a nice part that we add. We also do place students carefully if they're looking into taking English or taking math. And so we actually use a multiple measures guide for that. So these are the 4 classes listed here that we do ask students to place into. So a student comes to us, they can't just sign up for English 121 in their first semester. They can't just sign up for college algebra in their first semester. So in that case, we have a handful of ways they can place. And so the graphic at the bottom of the slide here kind of shows you as a sample. These are the 4 placement methods for college algebra, and students can do one of these 4. If they don't place, they could perhaps try another one, but these are the 4 methods that they can place. And so we don't use just the OccuPlacer, just because we have heard some equity concerns about standardized testing adversely affecting disadvantaged populations. And so for that reason, there are other ways that students can place into these classes. And that takes us to our registration resources and for when students actually sign up, and I'm going to hand it off to Norma.
Awesome, thank you, Owen. So the registration resources, what we do is we created several videos. Like this week, we've been doing a lot of one-on-ones. Some of us have, right? Depending on campus select students, our new students cannot register now. So we're sitting there, we're helping them. We've done how to search for class video and a PDF. So when the resources are available and it's a larger group, the high school does send out the resources, but when it's a smaller group, I tend to work a little bit more on one-on-one with smaller groups for campus select. Owen has the large majority of them. So when I sit with students and we're talking about the classes that they could take, we give them the information in a video, in a PDF of how to search for those classes. Another thing that we've done is we created a quick how to register for a class with a CRN. So in my one-on-one meetings this specific week, once we determine what class, I told them what a CRN number is, right? This is a magical number, take it. Here's a quick video of how to get it done on Monday when class registration opens, because we're trying to get you that seat because you're a high school student. We have, a next period, like your period, you're off period 2 and 3, and we have a certain time gap that we need to get you into. So how do we cut the process and make it a lot smoother for students? So we have a couple of videos and PDFs, how to add a class directly with a CRN once you have that, how to search for a class video and a PDF, And then we also do have a PDF on how to complete a graduation application for those students that are completing certificates with us and or are completing their actual 2-year degrees with us as well. We also, from there on, we move on to orientation, and we offer them proper resources on being a student. So on those, what does this imply? We have PDFs. These we really give out more when we're doing the information sessions on how to be successful in D2L. So how to access D2L courses, how to access your CCC online courses as well. That's a PDF. How to drop and withdraw courses, PDF as well. And again, we want students to be successful, but we don't give them the proper resources, they won't be. It's midnight and they're making that final decision, and none of us are answering our emails or lifting a hold or lifting something for them to get them through this. So we give them the needed tools, right? So we've created a how to drop and withdraw from your courses PDF, how to access your email. It sounds like, oh, everyone should know, but not a lot of our students know where to access their email. And now you don't have an email until you register for a class, right? So the importance of that. We have steps to success, tips and tricks. That is a PDF that we have created as well. And these are all the resources that our students get. A little bit of a toolbox when they come to our orientation session so that they have it and they save it, and then they could pull this up when they need it. We also have a PDF on how to pay fees online. That's always very important, right? So here we are for students that took classes in the fall, they're about to jump into the spring, but if they have not paid any fees associated, then they'll have a hold, and that'll hold them back from registering from spring semester. So we also give them that information on how to pay their fees online. And I'll hand it over to Grace.
Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit about some of the reaction that we've gotten. So obviously we talked about these resources were created because we were in the middle of a pandemic and we weren't seeing students face-to-face or one-on-one. But our LEPs actually really enjoyed them and really needed them, and they've asked for them consistently, even when they were back in person and when we were still allowed to come in the building. And I think the reason for this is, again, we're able to capture more students, right? I know I've been in situations where maybe I'm there for an application session, but 3 of the students are absent, right? Well, how are we going to capture those students later? With the pre-recorded videos, with all of these PDFs and things like that, it gives students the ability to try and figure it out on their own. And it gives them all of those processes. And I think our LEPs particularly feel like they can now answer questions, right? Because they have students that say, well, I don't know how to drop a class. And where before they would have said, well, you need to email Owen and Owen can tell you, right? Instead, our counselors have a how to drop PDF and can say, oh, I know how to help you with that. Let me send this to you and we can walk through it. So it's really empowering students, and it's also empowering the people that we work with, because none of this knowledge is secret, right? We don't want it to be secret. We want it to be shared. We want people to know what this process is and how they can work through it on their own, because once they leave concurrent enrollment and again move on, they'll need it. They'll need to know how to do those things on their own. So Norma, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I think that the only thing that I've noticed, and we were talking about this in our team, was that we felt that we would be more in the high schools doing our information sessions, but in all reality, because of how many resources we have now available with the pre-recorded sessions and the option of being in Zoom, a lot of our partners have opted to taking those online options now for their information sessions. I had told our team that I had noticed several parents driving, right? They don't have their kiddos are in the Zoom meeting at home in a computer while the parents are driving, and they're getting that information. And for us, it really narrowed down to, is it them, what is, it doesn't matter, how do I have it written down here? It doesn't matter how they get the information. What matters is how, is that they get it, right? So if a parent is driving home and our information session is running, they're still being informed, they're listening to us, they're getting that information. And so is the student. So we felt that that was very important. And again, there's just more options. We're giving parents options, and the students are learning about concurrent enrollment and what it is to be a concurrent enrollment student before they take that leap in joining our program.
I'll add as well, we kind of figured this would happen early on, but we didn't originally plan for it. Creating all these resources actually really increased the amount of resources we were offering to our online only and smaller schools. I mean, we have a handful of, like many concurrent enrollment programs, we have a handful of high schools that have very large numbers of CE students. We also have many high schools that maybe just send us a few, maybe 20 or less. And a lot of these students kind of pre-pandemic, they're on their own to kind of learn how CE works. They can contact us, etc. But it's a very small program if you only send us 3 to 5 students, right? So this time we could say, hey, we have all these resources for you. These are things that can help you. And so a big bit of feedback we received from some of our, and like I said, especially the online only high schools, where those students might be spread throughout the state taking online classes through Front Range. Now they have access to these resources. I've had students as far, I'm here in Westminster. We have students as far as Durango and even Grand Junction who have taken classes through us because they attend an online high school that partners with us. And now they had access to these things. So that was really fun. Some of our partners even take our links and send them out themselves. There are times where I learned that someone's taken an assessment to get into Math 121 and I didn't send that link out. Someone else already sent it to them for me. The counselor took care of it. And so I think in some ways it's also skipping some steps for students and eliminating some like communication barriers, so to speak. They don't have to reach out to me first, those sorts of things. So let me kind of transition us to kind of what happens after the first semester. Students go through the process, they get registered in their first semester. So what happens now? Students are equipped to continue their college pathways work during and after high school, and they put their self-advocacy skills to work. So we'll talk first kind of what's next for them when they're still in high school. For one thing, a lot of our students have to pay fees, right? And so they have those resources. It's not on our list above, but we do have a how to pay fees resource, and that students can utilize that, and they know how to get into eWolf, our portal, and they know how to click the Pay My Bill button. And so they're able to take care of that. Grace.
Yeah, and our students, one of the things that's really nice about the way that our process works is that if students participate in the fall, then when they're ready to go for the spring, all they need to do is figure out what courses they're taking and register. And then if they return to us for another year, they do need to fill out that concurrent enrollment form again and figure out again what courses they're taking on campus and register again. But it simplifies the process over time. And then we just wanted to point out that one thing that has happened that is kind of when you have things written down the way that we do and you're sharing them with people is that when things change, we have to update them. So we try to update our videos and resources each summer. But sometimes like if they change the look of a certain screen on eWolf or something like that, we might have to update them sooner and quickly so that what we're giving students matches what they see. So that is sometimes an unexpected hiccup, but it helps us keep up with students and what they need.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well with our campus select students. So the students who are either coming to our campus or they're taking a class that's asynchronous online with Front Range, or they're taking a remote class that pre-pandemic would have been on campus. We have a series of student success programming options for them as well. So Norma mentioned a few times that we're doing orientations for the students where we kind of say, okay, here's everything you need to know. Here's how to access those things. And most importantly, here are your coordinators. Because when you forget all these things, you're supposed to know, here's the person that you can ask and we will resource you. But we also include, we've been doing some other things. I've been doing some metacognition sessions, which is just fancy talk for the science of learning and how do you learn, and what are some practical tips and tools that students can take and put to use. We've done them on our campus. We've even gone to a couple of our high schools because they've requested us to come over and give sessions, not even just to concurrent enrollment students and the ones who will be soon. We did a session this morning on what I'm kind of tentatively calling CE advising, where we're piloting ways that we can get students connected with advisors, especially if they're campus select students, because we want them to know what their pathway is and to know how to get where they're going. And in the process, we show them how to use their degree check option that lists out their classes and how to get their degree, because we want them to know, this is your degree. Don't wait for me to kind of tell you, hey, take these classes. you can look yourself, and then I'm here to resource you, answer questions, support you. And with that process, they're also able to gain access to transfer agreements. But then there's also what happens after high school. So I'll let Norma talk about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Owen. So what happens after high school? And the transition is made a lot easier, right? So, and I put this in on my notes because like I stated, I have a lot of the high school select students, but now as my high school select students are transitioning their senior year to be campus select students, the transition is amazing, right? Concurrent enrollment is intended to teach our students to be college students while they're in high school. So we want to make sure that they know all the proper resources. Again, self-advocacy is going to be key, right? How are they going to self-advocate while they're in high school, while they're in college classes at the high school? And so after high school, the transition is just made a lot easier. But I had to put in my note that I have noticed that my high school select students coming onto campus, that transition is a lot smoother. Students now have expectations, right? They know exactly what to expect on the back end. And what is the back end? They're EWOL, how to look up resources, how to register without our help, how to look at their schedules and know drop and withdraw dates, know your 15-week courses versus your 10-week courses, how to drop and withdraw from classes, how to pay your fees, and to know about digital books. The digital fees came up on us, right? After COVID, I think that was like after COVID, some of our classes started adding digital fees on our end. So students now know about that. They know a little bit more about the resources, Office 365. We had several students buying Word, right? They don't know what we don't tell them. So I think that it's our job as concurrent enrollment coordinators to tell students what their resources are. Office 365 does exist. Don't go out and buy something that we're offering you that your tuition is paying for. So that is resources that they have. They learn about where to access their student forms, how to access D2L. And not long ago, we had everyone applying for free college for college on the free days, getting their transcripts. While I was in high schools, students were just coming into the counseling office, knowing exactly what they were doing. And these are our seniors, knowing exactly how to log into EWOL, how to get into that transcript button, how to request them and send those over. So again, we feel that that transition is being made a lot smoother because of the process that we have in place currently.
Yeah, and I just want to sum up what Norma is saying by just saying that it really helps us with matriculation. Like I said before, building confidence, building those self-advocacy skills helps students to realize that Front Range is a place that they can go, and that community college or colleges in general are a place that they can go, and that they already have some of the skills that they need to be successful, even if they don't have a concurrent enrollment program behind them, right? Because they're post-graduation. So that is something that's really, we've seen play out with students. One of the largest challenges that we're facing currently on the Front Range side is that Front Range is using Navigate. And while we are trying to build Navigate into some of the things that we use, we don't use it with like our high school select students don't ever see Navigate, and some of our campus select students don't. And so that is probably the biggest challenge for them, is that when they are transitioning after high school, is that is a brand new system for them. But I always like to tell them, like, at least it's just one new system, and it's not that you're learning Navigate and EWOL and D2L, right? You're only learning one new thing. And so that still, I think students kind of have that confidence. So I'm just going to wrap some things up, and then we'll head into a Q&A. I know we have a couple of questions pending in the chat. I just want to say thank you, first of all, for being here, for listening to us talk about our process. Really, our main philosophy is about providing students with the tools they need to be successful, right? In the long run, I want students to feel like they can walk into a community college or any college and feel confident that they know what to do and where they're going, or they at least know how to ask for help, right? Again, it's that asking for help is such an important piece. And so our philosophy is really just giving students all the tools they need to do that. We work with over 2,500 students, and this has so far been a successful model for our team, but there are other ways of doing this, and there's other information to share. So if anyone has any feedback or has other things that they share with students, please feel free to bring that up in the chat. Like we said earlier, this is one way, but it's not the way, right? And so we are really open to anything that anyone else is doing that they think is helping students succeed. And then, yeah, we are just happy to stick around and take some questions. And thanks for joining us at this last session. You guys stuck it out and stuck with us, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
So in the chat, I know Anitra answered one question, but they were asking if the process is the same at the high school versus the college. And the short answer was yes. Is there anything more you'd like to add to that, or exact same?
It's close to the same. You know, so in the high schools, for example, I was just in high school this week. Doing this, we go in and I give like a very short informational session, so maybe 10 minutes instead of the full 40. And then we're going to guide the students through the applications. And then I'll be back there in December and we'll pull our computers out again and we'll register together using the how to register with the CRN PDF. I'll actually bring printed copies of those. Or for example, with one high school I'll be at early next week, we're just going to have all of the students in every high school select section come down at one time during lunch hour. And then I'm networking with the counselor partner that I have there. And then as the students come in, they're going to check in with their counselor, going to be told, these are your classes. They sign up on the computer. I'm there to help assist. So that's kind of a bit on how we do that. But we also know that that's a pretty unique way of doing it. And there's certainly not the only way. So, am I addressing your question, Tammy?
Well, yeah, I wanted to add to that, Owen. The only difference, especially with I have the largest high school population, the high school select students, the only difference would be all the underage holds are lifted without the underage form. If a student is coming as a 15-year-olds have to get approved. The 16-year-olds need an underage waiver. Those two things we do not do if the student is at the high school.
That makes sense. And I think a couple of you mentioned that, you know, this is one way to do it. I know there's a lot of folks on from secondary and they're probably going, well, our partners do this different. That's fine. This is something that Front Range is doing. And I totally get it because it gets the buy-in of the student and they really learn how to do it instead of just kind of being put in by somebody, by the concurrent enrollment office being registered. So definitely some big advantages to that. Okay, so also somebody asked about getting links to some of your PDFs and maybe your videos. That sounds super helpful when these students are walking through this process. Is that something we can get, or?
So the answer is yes and no. The yes in terms of our YouTube videos, we can post links in the chat if that's something people want. But in terms of our PDFs, we have to actually send them as PDFs. Just because of the nature of we use SharePoint and not Google, and so we can't share with people outside of Front Range. So if you are interested in any of our resources, reach out to us, email us. I think our emails are on the screen, and let us know what you'd like, and I'm sure we'd be happy to share what we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Marcy said, when students complete their own registration, how do you handle the holds on their accounts, SSN, residency, date of birth, that prevent registration?
Great question. I'll start this one, but Grace, in order if you have anything to add, just cut me off anytime. So when the student completes their CE form is when we're going to find out about their holds. And so let's say student, you know, at their high school, they fill out they accidentally put in the wrong digit on their social security number, something like that. Then we're going to catch that when they turn in the CE form, because now we know about them and we see their holds. And at that point, we go back to, there's a few different ways to go from there. All of them involve having the student fix this. Like there's college paperwork that every other non-concurrent enrollment college student has to complete if that kind of error happens on an application. And so these students have to do it too. Now, how we work with them to get it done looks different depending on the circumstance. Sometimes, you know, we just send it to our high school partner and the partner says, I got this, no worries. And they have the student complete the form and we're done. Other times I go back to a high school and we call the student down. We just say, hey, this is what happened. Here's the form. I'm gonna help you fix this right now. Grace, Norma, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, and I would just say we really like to meet our partners where they're at. So when it comes to assisting with registration, it really depends on what they need. So like I have some schools where I'm physically in the building, like Owen was saying, where I'm there if something comes up that is a surprise, because we all know that, no matter how well you plan, there's always a surprise, right? But then also there are some schools where like I will do virtual open office hours where I will just be there. And then if a student is having issues getting registered, they hop into those office hours and let me know what's going on. And then we can solve their problem there. So there are a couple of different ways that we do it. And it really depends on what our school partner wants. And that is usually how we process those.
And I think it's, oh, do you have something else? Sorry.
I was going to just say, and I should add too, like specifically about I'm also thinking of selective service holds. We have several seniors that are getting those holds right now. I have a admittedly canned email that later today I'll be sending out to all my selective service holds because I just double checked them all yesterday and I know who hasn't finished yet. And so just reaching out, and I'll copy their counselor and we'll say, hey, you need to do this. You need to let me know you've done it. Here's the link. So.
I think the last question in the chat that I've seen so far is from Dwena, who is asking about bilingual resources. Is that limited just to the videos, or do you also have written documents?
Mm-hmm. I'll jump on board with that one. When it comes to the bilingual, since I'm the bilingual rep, right now we only offer the information session in Spanish because it was important for us that the parent understood. Like if we feel like if we have the parent buy-in, then everything else flows in versus the parents not knowing. And so right now the bilingual resources are stopping at the information session, the ABC in Spanish. I do help students, and the reason why, and we haven't spoke about this a whole lot more on what our next resources would be when it comes to Spanish, all our classes are being taught in English, right? So I could help a student, like I'm completely fluent in Spanish. I could help the student answer the application. Our application process is all in English. I could be there multitasking in both in Spanish and or English to get it done. But at the end of the day, I need to make sure that the student will understand the teacher. Which is the reason why I have not stepped into doing an applications video in Spanish, because the only application we currently have across the board is an English application. So that's where I'm currently at. And I'm more than happy to share the information that we do have in Spanish as well.
Great, thank you. We have about 3, maybe 4 minutes left, 3. Is anybody out there? You can come off mute or pop it in the chat. We just have a few more minutes, and then I know we have it on the schedule till noon, but basically it was a 50-minute session. So anything else? Looks like we're got a couple of thank yous and an agreement about the parents buy-in is extremely helpful. And as I was nodding emphatically as well on that, critical. So, and a little tricky. So if nobody else is chiming in, I just more thank yous. So I want to thank you 3 for being here, and I want to thank everyone on this call for coming to the conference. And we're going to post resources, and hopefully I can get your slide deck here and recording, and hopefully everyone else remembers to send theirs in as well. Thank you for being here. Any last words from our Front Range crew?
Just thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I enjoyed hearing about it as well.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Take care and have a great weekend.